All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into a case that's really going to make you think.
Oh yeah, this one's a doozy.
It's the Eric Miller murder case, and we've got some amazing source material for this one.
Really fascinating first-hand accounts.
Exactly. We're going to be looking at excerpts from a true crime podcast that really gets into the nitty-gritty.
It's wild the twists and turns this case takes.
Yeah, and that's our mission today, to figure out what really happened to Eric.
Who killed him, and more importantly, why?
Right, because on the surface, he seems like he's got it all.
Successful scientist. Young.
Good job.
Seems happy.
Right then, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Gets sick after a bowling night.
Just a regular night out with friends.
And at first, everyone thinks it's like, okay, maybe a bad flu, you know? But then it gets really serious.
Yeah, his sister even talks about seeing him in the hospital having like full-on hallucinations.
Really scary stuff.
So clearly something more is going on.
Way more.
And then the tests come back,
Yeah.
and it's arsenic poisoning.
And not just a trace amount. Yeah, the medical examiner is adamant this was no accident.
Someone wanted Eric dead?
So where do investigators even begin with a case like this?
Well, they start by looking at Eric's work, right?
Makes sense. Maybe a disgruntled colleague.
Jealousy, professional rivalry, that kind of thing.
But they don't find anything concrete there.
Nope. So then the focus shifts to Eric's personal life.
His wife, Anne.
Turns out she's having an affair.
With a coworker of hers named Daryl Willard.
Yeah, and suddenly motive seems pretty clear-cut, right?
Like maybe Daryl wanted Eric out of the picture so he could be with Anne.
It's a classic love triangle gone wrong.
Go wait, there's more?
Oh yeah, this case is full of twists.
So Eric's in the hospital, and for a while he actually seems like he's getting better.
Like he might pull through.
Then he shares a meal with Anne, and he takes a turn for the worse.
A really bad turn.
And get this, tests reveal more arsenic.
But this time it seems like it was given to him earlier while he was still in the hospital.
So now we're talking two separate poisoning attempts.
Which completely changes the timeline and the suspects.
And to make matters even more suspicious, Anne's behavior is raising all sorts of red flags.
Yeah, she lawyers up pretty quickly.
Doesn't seem to be cooperating with the police.
Even fights with Eric's family over his funeral arrangement.
Like she wants to cremate him against their wishes.
It's all very strange.
Not exactly what you'd expect from a grieving widow.
Right, it's almost that she's more worried about appearances than finding out who killed her husband.
Okay, so we've got a love triangle, multiple poisonings, and a wife who's acting incredibly suspicious.
Things are definitely pointing towards Anne.
But then another huge twist.
Oh yeah, this case just keeps on giving.
Daryl commits suicide.
He leaves behind a note.
Claiming he had nothing to do with Eric's murder.
Insists he's innocent.
And Daryl's wife is adamant that he could never have done something like that.
Says he just couldn't handle the pressure of being accused.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Oh yeah.
The full autopsy report comes back, and it reveals something shocking.
They find arsenic in Eric's system from months before Daryl even entered the picture.
Like way before the affair even started.
So Daryl couldn't have been responsible for that first poisoning.
Which means
Anne had been poisoning Eric for who knows how long.
it's chilling to think about.
It paints a very disturbing picture of Anne.
Yeah, we're not talking about a crime of passion here.
This was calculated, premeditated.
And it raises a whole new set of questions about what was really going on in their marriage. Okay, so we left off with this bombshell, right? And potentially poisoning Eric way before anyone even suspected anything.
It's mind-blowing.
But how do you even begin to prove that?
I mean, you've got the arsenic, but can they link it back to Anne?
It's got to be tough.
It is, but this is where Lieutenant Morgan, the lead investigator, really shines.
I love when those little details crack a case wide open.
Me too. So he's reviewing the case files, right? Going through everything with a fine-tooth comb.
Hundreds of pages, I bet.
Oh, yeah. And something jumps out at him from Daryl Willard's wife's interview.
What is...
She mentions that Daryl's lawyer had warned him about possible attempted murder charges.
Wait a minute, why would the lawyer even say that unless Daryl had admitted to something?
Exactly. It's a huge red flag.
So Lieutenant Morgan goes straight to the lawyer, hoping to get more information.
But there's a problem. Attorney-client privilege.
Oh, right. Even though Daryl's gone, the lawyer's still bound by confidentiality.
Exactly. It's a huge roadblock.
So frustrating. They're so close to the truth, but the law is in the way.
Well, the district attorney knows this could be the key to the whole case.
So what does he do?
He makes a bold move. files a motion to compel the lawyer to testify.
Whoa, that's a big deal, isn't it? Breaking attorney-client privilege?
Yeah, it's not something they do lightly.
So they're basically saying the need to solve Eric's murder outweighs the lawyer's confidentiality.
Right, and it sets off this massive legal battle.
I bet that took years.
3 years, to be exact. Imagine the agony for Eric's family, knowing the truth might be out there but locked away.
And Lieutenant Morgan, he must have been so determined to see this through.
Oh yeah, he was close to retirement, but he refused to give up on Eric.
That's incredible.
It is. And finally, after all that legal wrangling, the North Carolina Supreme Court makes a decision.
Okay, drum roll please. What's the verdict?
They rule in favor of the prosecution.
So the lawyer has to talk.
He does, and he reveals what Daryl confessed to him.
This is it?
Daryl described a meeting he had with Ann just days before his suicide.
Oh, wow.
Ann breaks down and confesses to him that she injected something into Eric's Lafitte while he was in the hospital.
So she frames Daryl as the killer and then admits to doing it herself.
It's a truly twisted situation.
How did Daryl react to her confession?
He was devastated. Remember, he was already carrying the weight of the affair, the suspicion, and now this.
I can only imagine how betrayed he must have felt.
Like he was being manipulated into taking the fall for something horrific.
It's heartbreaking. Honestly, he might have been involved with Anne, but in the end, he was a victim too.
Absolutely.
So with this confession out in the open, the police finally have what they need to arrest Anne.
And she's officially charged with Eric's murder.
I bet she wasn't expecting that.
Not at all, but faced with Daryl's confession and all the other evidence, she makes a decision.
To fight it in court.
Actually, she takes a plea deal.
So she admits guilt in exchange for a lighter sentence?
It's a smart move from a legal standpoint, but it doesn't really answer the big question.
The why.
Exactly. Why would Anne go to such lengths, poisoning her husband over such a long period of time?
Some people theorize it was ambition.
Wanting a fresh start, new life, without the mess of a divorce.
Others say maybe it was fear.
Fear of the social and financial consequences of a separation.
But even those theories don't feel completely satisfying.
No, there's a coldness, a premeditation to her actions that's hard to comprehend.
So we're left with a confession, a conviction, but still that giant question mark hanging over Anne's motive.
And that's what makes this case so unsettling.
We know who did it, but we still don't fully understand why.
It's a mystery that continues to haunt everyone involved.
It's crazy, right? We've heard the evidence, we've got the confession.
And yet,
But there's still this feeling like something's missing.
yeah, like justice was served, but it doesn't feel complete.
Exactly. It doesn't tie a neat little bow on this whole tragedy.
And that's the thing with real life cases, you know?
They're messy, they leave scars.
And this one, the impact on the people left behind is huge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just think about Eric's family.
Losing him in such a horrific way
And then the betrayal.
by someone they trusted, someone they welcomed into their home.
It's unimaginable, really.
They were there for Anne, offering comfort all while she was living this lie.
That's gotta leave a deep wound.
A wound that might never fully heal.
And then there's Daryl Willard's family,
His wife raising their daughter alone,
knowing her husband was caught up in all of this.
and ultimately taking his own life because of it.
It shows how this crime affected so many people.
The ripples spread far beyond Eric himself.
So many lives shattered by Anne's actions.
And for what?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
The what?
Even with Anne behind bars, we still don't have a clear answer.
We've explored different theories,
Ambition, fear.
but none of them feel totally satisfying.
There's a coldness to her actions, a premeditation that's just chilling.
Like something was missing in her.
Almost like she was incapable of empathy.
It's a scary thought.
It makes you wonder if we can ever really know the people in our lives.
What's lurking beneath the surface?
Right. What secrets they might be hiding.
I think this case forces us to confront that uncomfortable truth.
The complexity of human nature.
The capacity for both love and incredible darkness.
And in this case, that darkness took a truly horrific form. So what happens now?
Well, Anne's scheduled to be released from prison in a few years.
I wonder what that will look like.
Will she show remorse? Will she try to rebuild her life?
Or will she just disappear?
And what about Eric's daughter, Claire?
She's being raised by Anne's parents.
Shielded from the truth about her mother.
Will she ever try to connect with Anne?
Will she want answers?
Or will she choose to move on without her? It's tough to say. Really, only time will tell.
But one thing's for sure, this case stays with you.
It really does. It's a stark reminder of how fragile life is.
And how ambition and deceit can lead us down a very dark path.
Yeah, and maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all of this.
A renewed appreciation for truth, for honesty,
for the importance of cherishing our loved ones,
and for the complexities of the human heart.
capable of both great love and unspeakable acts. So to our listeners out there, if this case has piqued your interest,
I encourage you to dig deeper.
there's so much information available,
Court records, interviews, analyses.
each one offering a different perspective on this tragic story.
And remember, every case like this, every story,
It's a piece of a larger puzzle.
helping us understand the human condition.
The choices we make, the paths we take. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the mysteries that surround us.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening.